Hey folks, KILT-MAN here, KILT-MAN at your sword and sorcery services. How are you? Hope you're all doing very, very well. Any dark lords? Any black wizards around? Don't worry, he'll take care of them for you. I'll be in the local tavern. Hey folks, 1980 saw Hawk the Slayer unleashed upon the world, an unsuspecting world. A little threadbare, ultra low budget British fantasy film, which kind of ushered in, unwittingly, an entire new age of fantasy cinema. We'd had Ralph Bakshi earlier on with his rotoscoped version of Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. An outstanding version it is as well. And then back before then, you'd had Ray Harryhausen and Jason the Argonaut and Sinbad and all that kind of stuff. But this was the kind of the Conan and Dungeons and Dragons era. So without Hawk the Slayer, debatably, you might not have quite so quickly got the likes of Excalibur, Dragon Slayer, Conan the Barbarian, Conan the Destroyer, and Krull, and my favourite of all, The Sword and the Sorcerer. But this, I've reviewed the film before, so I'm not really going to go massively in depth about the movie itself, for we are about to talk about its sequel. Oh yes, the sequel, the long-awaited sequel to Hawk the Slayer. But written by Terry Marcel and Harry Robertson, who are good friends, and Harry Robertson had been scoring movies for Hammer and Tyburn. He did The Ghoul and Legend of the Werewolf for Tyburn. He did The Vampire Lovers and the Karnstein trilogy for Hammer Films. And he was great for creating these lush, sweeping, very romantic and gothically veined, Hammer horror scores. But he kind of wanted to start making movies. So he and Terry Marcel thought, Tolkien's very popular, and the sword and sorcery genre hasn't really been touched upon in a few years. Let's make a film inspired by the likes of Tolkien and Dungeons and Dragons. Only we won't have any dungeons, or dragons for that matter, but we'll have two brothers, a good brother and an evil brother. We'll have a mystical mind sword, we'll have elves, we'll have giants and dwarfs, and black wizards, and a sorceress, and vengeance, and ping pong balls, and disco helixes, and silly string. And we'll film it in Pinewood if we get the right money, and also in Black Park, where Hammer filmed most of their fantastic gothic odysseys. And thus was born Hawk the Slayer, which was clearly intended to be a franchise. Hawk, played by American John Terry, is opposed to his older brother, played by the ever phenomenal Jack Palance, Voltan, who in flashbacks has killed their father to get the mystical mind sword. Get his mitts on that, because then he can wield it for dark purposes across the land. Can't allow that. And killed the father, and also because he had the hots for Elaine, which was John Terry as Hawk the Slayer. It's Hawk's betrothed, played by the luscious Catriona MacColl, sometimes known as Catherine MacColl, often seen in Italian splatterfests for the gnome of gore, Italian gore meister himself, Lucio Fulci. And he manages to try to rape her. She thrusts a flaming stave into his face, burns out one of his eyes, and then in vengeance, on their wedding day, he kills her with a crossbow bolt, and then goes off into the lands to bring together a band of mercenaries, and also father a son who's terribly evil as well, played by the great Shane Bryant, the androgynous Shane Bryant. But he's wonderful, and he will have tutoring from the dark lords, the black wizards, who will try to appease the pain in his flambéed eye, which only fuels his thirst for vengeance even more. So they'll go about the land, ransacking taverns and inns, and the nunnery. And a hero is called forth. Who be that hero? Well, obviously it's got to be Hawk, who's been away since all these earlier events. He's been away battling in other lands. and he comes back with his mind sword to rid the land of this evil blight. And he gathers together, a bit like the Magnificent Seven, only the budget wouldn't stretch to 7. So you get the table of 5. You have Bernard Bresslaw playing Gort, a giant who really isn't very tall. You have, what's his name? I've got it here. Peter O'Farrell as Baldwin, who's a dwarf, who isn't really that small. You have Ray Charlson as Crow, the Elfin bowman, the last of his kind. I always liked the way that he called them Elfin, not just like an elf. It's an Elfin mind sword with the Elfin mind stone in it, and you've got the Elfin bowman. They're not just elves, but he's not just an elf. He's Elfin, you know, like in my favourite werewolf movie, which doesn't actually have werewolves in it. They're not wolves, they're wolfen. So I like it for that reason. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but I still like it though. And you have, what's his name? William Morgan as Ranulph. It's Ranulph who will lose a hand, and then he will find he's got to go and get Hawk and band together these warriors. Now Hawk knows Crow from previous adventures. I think he might know Gort. I'm not too sure about that. Gort carries a great big bloody sledgehammer, and obviously the Elfin bowman carries, what would he carry? Oh yeah, a bow. Yeah, a bow and arrows. Yeah. And this is the film famously where Crow, Ray Charlson, will use the same shot all the time. He'll leap into the air and he'll just unleash an entire quiver of arrows, like automatic bloody bow, same shot. But also, and that kind of works to a degree. But when you got Ranulph, who has the crossbow and only one hand with which to wield it, he has a magazine of bolts which he attaches, and it's just the same shot of bolt after bolt after like machine gun fire. But what you don't see is anyone pulling, the string back and cocking it and aiming it. So how does it do it? Doesn't matter. As I said, threadbare budget. Terry Marcel, Harry Robertson. We're going to get most of the funding from Roger Corman. But then when he got wind of that, Lou Grade and ITC went, "Don't be going to Roger Corman, you come to me. I'll fund this, let's get it made." So it was made, as I say, at Pinewood and at Black Park. So you got great sort of location work taking place, but they also wanted not to try to have a Robin Hood feel to it. So there's no sunny dappled leaves and bubbling brooks illuminated by the strong sunshine. No, they filmed it in winter. It was freezing cold, bleak, rainy, wet and miserable. That's what they wanted though. But it does look good. And you've got a stalwart cast of superb British comedy actors and dramatic artists. Roy Kinnear, Freddie Main's not exactly British. Harry Andrews, Annette Crosby, Graham Stark, Derek O'Connor, Warren Clark, Declan Mulholland. These are all seasoned professionals who were making movies and making TV shows and sitcoms. And it was great to see these familiar faces populating this fantastical land, which looked like the park just down the road from wherever you are. But it's wonderful. It's cheapskate, but it had massive ideas, lofty ambition, and it really foretold, two brothers feuding. Voltan gets slain at the end, and of course, but not all the table of 5 will survive. Bit of a rap for you there. Ranulph will die, and so will Baldwin, the dwarf, and and it is sad that we lose these characters. But our boys will travel off because there's still black wizards out there that must be slain. So off they're going to go. I think Crow goes somewhere. Whatever. A bunch survive. But the idea was this could lead on to other things. It's clearly there's a hero and an odyssey and ongoing adventures in the offing. So who's going to fund the rest of it then? Nobody. And it's testament to their real affection and devotion to making this movie that Harry Robertson and Terry Marcel literally travelled the world to try and get funding. You'll go, look, make another movie? Oh, couldn't get that. Well, how about a TV show? They went to America to do a TV show. They even scouted locations in New Zealand. Now, think about that. Because where would the biggest fantasy bunch of movies ever conceived and ever produced be filmed? New Zealand. Lord of the Rings, and of course The Hobbit, Peter Jackson. So they'd already gone out there. So you see how this potentially fostered some of the greatest fantasy movies ever made. Not Sword and the Sorcerer, not that one, damn it. Although we did get a sequel to that. I have reviewed Sword and the Sorcerer. You guys know how much I love that movie. I did finally review Tales of an Ancient Empire. Don't ever watch the film Tales of an Ancient Empire. Watch my review of it instead, because it's far more entertaining and with a bigger budget as well. But they never did get that filmic sequel to Hawk the Slayer. Terry Marcel, after Harry Robertson died, sadly, quite a good number of years ago now, at a very young age, only about 63 years old, I think he was. Terry Marcel was still trying to get funding. It can still happen, and he was going to call it Hawk the Hunter. It never happened. I'm not saying that it never will happen as a film, but you know, and I'd love to see the likes of John Terry come back. I'd love to see Ray Charleston back as Crow, because Crow had this almost sort of Elfin version of William Shatner's speech pattern. Hello, my name is Crow. We must go now, travel north. It's stuttering, as hesitations and full stops where there shouldn't be full stops. But it's great because, and he's got the little point, so William Shatner, Captain Kirk, and he's got the pointy ears of Spock. So hey, it's all good. But he was great because you had backstory there and a mystical look in his eyes where he would think about the Iron Hills, I think it was. Can't quite remember now. But and Gort, Bernard Bresslaw, was outstanding as well. Bernard Bresslaw, who was always the big lumbering sort of patsy to Sid James. The two of them dirty lechers in the Carry On movies. But Bernard Bresslaw could actually play big and sinister. Look at his mad Afghan in the Carry On Up the Khyber. Oh my God, he's genuinely terrifying in that, even in a comedy role. And of course, he would be in Krull. He would play the Cyclops, who they're cursed because they can see their own demise. Oh dear God. I love Krull, but I'm not its biggest fan, because I think I actually prefer Hawk the Slayer for its ideas, its ambition, and what it does deliver, more than the much more lavish and bigger budget Krull. Although Krull does have a James Horner score, which is to die for. But we've got Harry Robertson's funky disco, early British synth pop score to Hawk the Slayer. And of course, as you will hear throughout the rest of this, and I've definitely spoken about it a lot before, and many of you fans out there will know this, the main theme doesn't half sound like Jeff Wayne's War of the Worlds. And it did cause some controversy. But, you know, it's inspired by. But it does fit the film as well. Anyway, there is a sequel. All this preamble aside, there actually is a sequel. And it's just come out. But it's not a film. It's a comic book. A graphic novel. And here it is. Hawk the Slayer. Actual title, Watch for Me in the Night. Yes, and it says the sequel to the classic fantasy movie. It's official, folks. It's official. That is the official sequel. So, right. It's written by Garth Ennis, and the artistry is by Henry Flint. Yeah, I had to look there. I did forget his name. Now, Garth Ennis, I mean, I've got all this stuff, but I'm not the biggest, most knowledgeable person when it comes to comics. And although I've got millions, I've grown up with them, and I have a library full of graphic novels. But Garth Ennis, to those of you who don't know, his credits include Preacher, The Boys, both of which were adapted for TV, The Punisher, Battlefields, War Stories, Out of the Blue, Sarah, The String Bags, The Lion and the Eagle, Battle Action, and of course Hawk the Slayer. And of course he worked for 2000 AD. as well. The great 2000 AD. The very comic that probably introduced many people of my age and my generation. I was born in 1969, so when 2000 AD came out, oh, we lapped it up. Judge Dredd. Yeah. Enough said. Henry Flint. Now, he's the artist. Garth Ennis wrote the story. Henry Flint is the winner of National Comics Award for Best Comic Artist 2004. And it's one of the galaxy's greatest comics rising superstars. Co-creator of Sancho Panza, Shakara, and the fan favourite strip Zombo. I don't know any of these, by the way. He's obviously worked with the ABC Warriors, Judge Dredd, Aliens, Deadlock, I just said Judge Dredd, Rogue Trooper, Nemesis the Warlock, the VCs, and Venus Blue Jeans. So a lot of 2000 AD is there as well. So, what exactly is this then? It's a sequel to Hawk the Slayer. But so is it Hawk going on other adventures in different lands? No. Voltan isn't dead. Voltan, the Jack Palance's evil brother, Voltan, the eldest brother. No. He was badly wounded, of course. He was killed, supposedly killed at the end of Hawk the Slayer. But you did see at the end, the Black Wizards, we're not finished with you yet, Dark One. We have more work for you. And his body gets whisked off to some sorceress cave somewhere, and they work upon him. Now, so he's coming back. His son Drogo was killed in the first movie, but Voltan's influence is now working for the Black Lords, the Black Wizards, and so he's evil. A bit like in Lord of the Rings, the old evil's returning, shadows from the east, strange folk have been seen on the roads, and you've got that. All that is taking place, but Voltan, who's now a maggoty-ridden, he's only got one blazing eye. He did lose one, but all the maggots are everywhere else, and he's still got his vaguely Darth Vader-ish helmet with like one part of the visor removed. In fact, let me think about this now. He's got two blazing eyes, and the entire visor's removed now. I'll show you some of the artwork. Do not worry. But he's back with a vengeance, and because he never got the Mind Sword, he never got the girl, he lost an eye, lost his life. That bloody Hawk! It's all down to him. But I'm coming back again. But Hawk will be summoned because evil deeds are being done across the land. So although we lost Bolden, we lost Ranulph, he will refine Gort, he will refine Crow, and he will also encounter who will join his ranks, the daughter of Ranulph called Bella, who's been working for the there's more nuns and there's more monks, but the monks are under the evil thrall of Voltan and the Black Wizards. So they're doing naughty things to the nuns. Oh aye. And but Crow has been recovering from his wounds. That's right, Crow did not go off with the Hawk at the end of Hawk the Slayer. It was Hawk and Gort that went off. Crow had to stay behind to nurse his wounds and be regenerated. And so the nuns are looking after him, but really they're not. They're just not letting him go. But Bella is working for them, is a slave girl for the nuns basically. But she's not under the thrall of the evil wizards and all that, and Voltan and all that. So she actually does let Crow go. And Crow and Bella will join Hawk and Gort. And you do get, because the Table of Five will be renewed. But, so you've got a new character of Bella, who, she's the daughter of Ranulph, and she will be given the crossbow that her father wielded. And she'll learn quite quickly how to use it. So that's fulfilled. But you get this other guy, and he's called Wain, and he's a minstrel, he's a bard, and he's the one thing that I actually thought, shit, do we need this character? Do we? Kind of reminds me of the similar character in The Witcher season 2, who actually pissed me off quite a bit, and but he's in it anyway. He's in it to the end, and they will meet the Sorceress again. The Sorceress who Hawk saved initially from a burning at the stake as being a witch, and like my young protege here, Mr. Kentucky Fudge is sporting. She has almost like the eye of Osiris wrapped around her, but she's a seer, doesn't need her eyes, just uses that drawn on thing, that she can see the future, fate, destiny and all that kind of thing. So they reteam with her. Voltan's back, you've got to do this. Hawk believes Voltan's back. Gort and the others like, well, no, you killed him. I can't come back, can he? But we all know he already is, because he's wreaking havoc on inns and taverns with his sightless, eyeless minions. They all, in selfless adoration of their black, dark master. They've burnt their eyeballs out, but they don't need to see. They don't need eyes to see, because they can see the Lord, the Dark Lord, will give them visions and command them. So you get plenty of skirmishes with these guys who are getting scythed and crossbow bolted and arrows put through them and hacked asunder with the Mind Sword and that bloody big hammer of Gort's. Many battles will ensue, and of course it will all culminate in a huge final face-off with a guy who's got no face, as in Voltan and Hawk. And yeah, I'm not going to give too much away, but I'll show you the artwork to some scenes and some pages. I loved it. It actually flows brilliantly from Hawk the Slayer the movie. The dialogue, everything except for Wain the minstrel seems exactly as a connective tissue, a natural evolution of what we've seen in the movie. So it is episodic. There's bicker banter. There's, the heavy-handed characterization. The really bold stridence. I am a good guy, Hawk. I am a bad guy, Voltan. And this, what I made me laugh out loud, there's a line earlier on, because it does get introduced. The book gets introduced with a recap of the events of the first movie, just to get you up to speed, and then it begins afresh. And I said in my big review for Hawk the Slayer, it was preordained. So you called your firstborn Voltan. Why would you do that? Voltan's not a good. It's not a name for a good person. Voltan, is it? It's not. Voltan, perhaps, as in the leader of the Hawkmen in Flash Gordon, perhaps that works. But Voltan, no, it's evil, it's dark. So is it any wonder he had a dark heart and evil intent? So it's like the dad realised, oh shit, I've got another son now. What should I call him? I don't want two bad apples, do I? I'll call you Hawk, because you will soar with an uplifting soul. You will fly to freedom and be an inspiration. You are Hawk. So, and there's actually a line in this, like, in during the introduction. Well, he called one Voltan and one Hawk. One was evil, one was good. I bet you can guess which one was which. You didn't have much of a chance with a name like Voltan, did you? So they realised, and it makes perfect sense. And I was like, yes, someone else agrees with me. But there is comedy. Bella obviously has the hots for Hawk. Yeah, you can see that coming a mile away, can't you? Gort and Wain and Crow just do their own thing. But you do get a backstory to Crow as well. And the backstory to the Mind Sword itself. The Mind Sword is a fantastic, broadsword with the hilt, the handguard is shaped like a hand. And the Mind Stone, a glowing ping pong ball of green, emerald green, goes into that at the start of Hawk the Slayer, and the hand closes over. But only a hero of noble heart can wield it. But a bit like Mjolnir for Thor, it can move with the power of mind. So if his sword's lying over there somewhere, Hawk just got to think, come here, boy, sword is there. And people are eviscerated, bad guys are sliced and diced. So it's got those kind of powers. But we learn in this how that Mind Stone came to be in the hands of Hawk's father, and sort of a semi-betrayal and what happened to the elves who had fashioned that and needed it. So there's a lot more expanded mythology here, which actually works, especially when it comes down to Crow, because Crow will have some kind of conflictions there, and he'll learn about his own heritage and all that. So you're expanding on the characters, but not in any sort of groundbreaking, massive revelatory fashion. it's in keeping with what Terry Marcel and Harry Robertson wrote initially. By the way, that Hawkless Layer was based, as I say, Dungeons and Dragons, but without the Dungeons and the Dragons. But having seen the new D&D movie, I still think that Hawkless Layer evokes exactly what kids playing D&D really expected from a fantasy movie. Whereas Dungeons and Dragons now, Honor Amongst Thieves, is just it's a comedy, it's a fantasy comedy, it's played for laughs, and basically that's all it is. It's entertainment, but Hawkless Layer actually brought all the backstory and the darkness and the evil and the questing nature of what D&D was all about. And it had all the trademarks: a giant, a dwarf, wizards, witches, a hero, a really nasty evil villain, you know, traps and escapades and escapes. It had all of that, just without the titular creatures and things of a dungeon and a dragon. But still worked, and this carries on that tradition. So anyway, look, I'm going to show you some of the artwork here. I'll try to avoid that ring light causing too much havoc. There is Bella, that's Ranulph's daughter. And there's someone who's being nursed back to health under a hood. Shades of Strider in the Prancing Pony, you know, in Bree, because that's Crow under there. You've got lots of nasty, sightless, eyeless bastards. You've got plenty of gore as well, as I'll show you now. Okay, slight spoiler ahead. That guy you saw with no eyes, Hawk will slice him asunder with the Mind Sword. There's the two halves of his body falling either side. And you'll see there's a little image of his body, is the two halves and a big pool of blood. There's the Bernard Breslaw character, Gort. And I'll show you this new character, this Wain, who is fucking annoying, I'll be honest. Oh, there's some more arrow play. Lots of sightless minions. Well, there's that guy there with the silly, I don't know what the hell the hair's doing there. But that guy there, that is Wain, the minstrel. And he's... Oh, don't worry, you'll find your skills. He latches on to the band of heroes. And the sorceress will be saying to him, like, oh, don't worry, your skills will come to light. You'll find what your skills are. It doesn't say find your courage. So, but he's a minstrel. What do you think his skills are? He's a bard, a teller of tales. That's it. Now, so you've got there's Crow, the Ray Charleston character, and he says there, like, I have been waiting. So you get all the panels and the original, because obviously this was a comic book run as well. So you get the covers for them, and you get the rough sketches and then revised sketches at the back, which is wonderful. Don't want to show too much in case I start giving stuff away, because remember Judge Death in Judge Dredd? And Judge Death had the other sort of weird Stygian bastards from that other dimension of death and pestilence, had them as his cohorts. Well, Voltan comes back with a whole bunch of other sort of strange effigies and hooded robed demons, and it's great. There's a lot of demonology and black magic and sorcery. Some of the colours are great in this. See, Henry Flint's artwork is award-winning. I'll be honest, I was a little bit surprised by... I thought it'd be more, I don't know, realistic perhaps. It's highly stylised. There is, supposedly, that's Hawk. Now, that looks nothing like John Terry. Nothing at all. But initially, they did seem to have done, because there's the Hawkless Layer issue 1 initial cover by Greg Staples. Now that is clearly John Terry, that's John Terry's image there. Then you get a revised version, which is still John Terry. That's pure John Terry. Now, they obviously did not go with that. I wonder why they didn't go with it. Would it be because it's just harder to do the real guy's face in panel after panel? I don't know. Box after box. I really don't know. Or is it to do with like copyright? Maybe, I don't know. Maybe John Terry said, no, I don't want to be in a comic book. I can't imagine that. But I honestly don't know why that would be. So in the end, and as you can see on the cover, it is sort of, I don't know, it's a fictionalized version of John Terry. But he actually doesn't look anything like that in the comic book either. He's got a very Billy Bland sort of look, very nondescript, square face, granite jaw, bit of a nasty haircut. But Gort does have, well, it's hard to get Gort wrong, I suppose. Bernard Breslow had a shaved head and a big beard. Looks like my mate Kev, actually. Kev, who I drink with occasionally, who is the size, it's a pure berserker Viking. Shaved head, and he's got a beard down here. And yeah, that's him. And, you know, he is a builder by trade, so he's got a sledgehammer, you know, in the back of his truck. But see some of the stylized imagery, it's kind of sketchy. Obviously Voltan's kind of like standing bold and proud, and then you've got like welters of arrows going in there, a maggoty face, look at that. So, but you've got some great extra stuff as well. You have an afterword by Garth Ennis himself, and that was from New York City, March 2022. But you've got a foreword as well, an introduction by Simon Pegg. Simon Pegg, of course, Hot Fuzz and Spaced and Mission Impossible movies as well. And he speaks from the point of view of a fan from, you know, as a kid in the 70s and then watching this in 1980 and it delivering after Star Wars. Every new, as he says, every new fantasy film that came out was the biggest and best ever. Because to you it was at that time. It's only afterwards you thought, well, okay, I wasn't quite on a par with X-Wing fighters and TIE fighters and Darth Vader. But, you know, but you still found immense value and satisfaction in films like this. Even no matter how low budget they were, as a kid you were easily satisfied. And it did, you know, scratch that itch you had for a more fabulous realm and adventures and heroism, you know. So it worked. You've got an introduction by Simon Pegg, which works. You've got ghastly greens and, you know, lots of monsters and tentacles and things. There's dark realms, there's vicious encounters, there's blood aplenty, and there's one seriously unexpected amputation, which I mean, what? No. Yeah, I didn't see that coming, and nor did the character in question. But, you know, there's no reason to suspect, even given what I just said there, that this couldn't go on for another offshoot. You know, cheers y'all. What I will say is it does round out everything you saw in the first movie, taken to their nth degree. So any new adventures would have to be entirely new. But they could happen. You know, if you're a hero, you've got to stay being a hero by doing heroic things. You can't just sit off under a tree, you know, making love and eating apples. We know we'd all like to do that, but no, sometimes you've got to get up there and, you know, use your brawn, your muscles, and go, oh, right, I feel like knocking some thugs' heads together, you know, and then going for a flagon of ale down at, you know, the local tavern. Yeah. You stay there, wench. I'll be back after I've righted some wrongs. So, folks, I recommend it. I do. I think it cost me $14.99 from Amazon. You can get a Kindle version, I suppose, but no, it's artwork. You want that, don't you? You want that tangible thing, and it's great. Fantastic cover, fantastic quality, and a nice, satisfyingly quite exhaustive read. There's a lot going on, but it won't take you a week to read it. You can do it in a day, but you feel like Hawk the Slayer, the movie. You feel satisfied by it. So get the soundtrack. This is wonderful, isn't it? And read your book and carry on Hawk's quest. Go slaying merrily away. Folks, I have been always Shabby KILT-MAN. Please, in the meantime, in this ever graphic in between time, please keep it Celtic, keep it Celtic. And I am going to see you all because I've got another low budget fantasy movie to talk about in a wee bit.